just in case you haven't watched the first video about how to do a security fix for a Jenkins plugin, the link for that is down in the show notes, or look up here in the upper right-hand corner. But this is part 2 of Mark Waite and I going through and doing a security fix for the TestNG plugin. Mark, how are you doing?
Great, Darren. Thanks for doing this.
We were debating on whether or not to do a part 2, and we realized at the end of part 1 that we sort of left it hanging, and we really wanted to go ahead and at least fill it out a little bit more, because there were a couple of to-dos that we wanted to, get done. And we thought initially, we'll just do them on the side, but we figured, no, these are good enough that we probably should go ahead and bring them back and just do them and document them for people to look at in case they're having to fix their own plugins. So these are just a few of the extra steps that we're going through to do this. So let's go ahead and share where we're at. We are on the TestNG plugin. I am on the security branch that Mark created in the previous video. So I'm fully up to date on that, unless Mark, you didn't do a push this morning, I'm assuming.
No. If we can do a quick check, it's easy to do a git pull.
Oh yeah, but that means I have to change my screen. So let's do that.
Okay.
I should do it just in case. So git pull, yeah, we're up to date. All right, good. So there were 2 items that we wanted to do. We wanted to update the online help, because we weren't sure really how we were going to do that when we were first talking about it. And when we initially talked about it, if I remember, we had not at that point come up with the hiding the checkboxes, right? When we initially talked about the help. And once we've hidden the checkboxes, which we have now, that would have impacted how we would have written the help. Okay, so it doesn't really matter, because if the boxes aren't there, you don't need to see the help. But if the boxes are there, we want the help to make sense. So the help files don't need to be as crazy as we thought they would need to be, because we've hidden the fields now.
Right. And we want the help just to say, honestly, you are risking something by enabling this. But it doesn't have to be nearly as convoluted as we originally thought it would be.
Right. Which is good. Right. Mm-hmm. We made some other things. In fact, we'll show the fix that Mark added in for hiding those fields. So that we're going to do the online help, and then we're also going to log a warning in case that escape hatch has been enabled. So let's go over to the publisher first. And the fields that we worked on, now you did a couple of small tweaks here. If people want to refer back to the other video, but in short, you needed to add another static here. You put in field names for get property and just did some general cleanup. Nothing earth-shattering from what we did in the first video. Mm-hmm. But let me go and grab escape test description, and let's find this. So in this case, what are we wanting to do? We are wanting to do, what are we working on? Oh, it's the help.
So we're looking for HTML files.
Right. Sorry. We were talking about something else before we started recording, and I'm still in that space of thought. So that is in resources, right. Hudson, publisher, and then here we go. So we have the exception message and the escape text description. So these are the 2 files that we have. So we're escape exception messages, if checked, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So do we want to go ahead and maybe pull this paragraph down to another paragraph here?
Yeah, I like sentence per line. It's, for me, a lot easier to read.
Okay.
And it doesn't even have to be separate paragraphs. I just like sentence per line. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for this one, though, because if it's checked, I want that to stand by itself.
Right.
And if it's unchecked, do you want to change it instead of unchecking? Let's say if unchecked.
Yeah.
Not that it matters that big of a deal, but to be consistent, semi-consistent, unchecked. Mm-hmm. This allows you to use HTML tags, blah, 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 but we know we don't want to do that, enabled by default.
Yeah, so and now I think it's still enabled by default if you open the escape hatch. So I think that's still a correct comment, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, now do you want to say something like, however, if you do uncheck, if this field is unchecked, and you have enabled, I don't want to just say the escape hatch. What's the best way to say that?
No, because the field won't be visible to them unless they've enabled escape hatch. So I don't think we have to mention
so that doesn't
escape
matter.
hatch, right?
Right.
In this case, it's if the field is unchecked and you're seeing this help, well, you're seeing this help is inferred, so we don't really need to say it.
Okay.
If this field is unchecked, you are vulnerable to a cross-site scripting attack.
Cross-site scripting attack.
Through the exception message. Through an HTML exception message.
Oops. Something like that?
Yeah. And
we'll take a look at that in just a minute because we'll start it up.
Right.
I am going to take this as it stands and go over to the test description and do roughly the same thing.
Yeah, I like that.
And make the necessary changes through test description. And let me be consistent here. Oh, HTML. How I dislike you. Okay, so, come on. All right, just to be semi-consistent. If unchecked. All right. Okay, so is that good enough?
I think so. Yeah.
Let's try that. Let me go back over here to my ugly thing here. So I'm going to do I had one earlier today, Maven. Okay, there it is. So there's the true. So that means the escape hatch is on.
Right. So you've opened the escape hatch, and this is going to compile the plugin, start a Jenkins controller with that plugin loaded that we can now use to do some exploratory testing. Correct.
So then as that starts up, that's going to be what? Localhost Jenkins.
Yeah, it should be localhost port 8080/Jenkins.
Let me do that a little bit there. Okay. And this was from a job I had earlier this morning. So, so there is my job. And configure. And if I take a look at my post-build action test ng advanced, then I see these.
Yep. And now how does the help look? Good.
Ooh.
Oh, that's interesting. Escape exception message.
Oh, you know what? Probably just didn't save it.
Well, this is cool because what this will show is how Jelly will reload, or the Jenkins code will reload automatically, I think. So refresh that web page.
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah, you don't have to even restart the Maven compile when you're doing this kind of textual modification to content.
Did not know that. Okay, let's see. So we know that one was fine.
That's still there. Good.
Yeah, sure enough.
That's cool.
Is that good enough?
I think it is, because what we're trying, I mean, it would be certainly part of my rigor might say, oh, I should hyperlink to the specific advisory, but we've already got a link to the advisory planned for the README. Putting it in the help is probably overkill. I think that's good enough.
Okay. All right. So we'll call that good. While we're in this folder, and I'll commit those in just a minute. While I'm in this folder, I said I was going to show people where the if was. And here are those two checkboxes that were in the config jelly inside publisher. And then what Mark did is he wrapped that in a jelly if statement. And he was just referencing if test and then the value of allow unescaped HTML, which was, or is, which I've already lost here. Where's
the escape hatch. Yeah.
That's the escape hatch that's defined over here.
Right.
Or actually, it's this one that you're actually referencing.
Well,
Or,
if
no,
you,
wait.
if you want to it's that property string that's off the right-hand edge of the...
It's actually, what are you referencing?
Exactly the property field.
Oh, okay.
So what that does is Jelly will look inside the Jenkins global variables and find hudson.plugins.testng.publisher.allow unescaped HTML.
Got it. Okay. So that's how we got the if to, and actually, just to make sure, because we're doing things really quickly here, or if you're watching this, you may be saying this isn't very quick at all. But that's okay. So let's do this one more time, but this time let's do it without the hatch. Just to make sure those boxes don't show up. Because we didn't touch anything, right? If I was to take a look at my commit, which I'm actually going to make a change to git ignore since I'm using this, I'm going to add in .dc cache. Because it's a VS Code thing.
Okay. So that's a file that VS Code uses to remember state?
Yeah. So now that'll be in the git ignore, which is fine. But anyway, let's go back over here. Where's my... Okay, it's up and running. So now let's go back over to Firefox. If I was to refresh this page, actually stay on page, let's just click on that first. Now we'll leave it. Okay, I'm going to do a configure. Then what we should see here now, 2, 3, 4, is testng advanced, but now we don't have those two extra checkboxes. So that's, which was true, but we didn't show that before, so now we're able to show that. So in the case to where those are being shown, and based on how the flag is set, and the only way those two will show is if the flag is set to true,
right? Then
good. So I think I'm okay with this, right? Are you okay with this?
I am. Yes.
All right, so let's do that.
It plugs the security hole.
Yep.
And it's not overly burdensome on the administrator, and we give lots of places where we warn about the choice.
Do we put the git ignore in a separate commit? Are we going to squash all this when it's all said and done?
I would put it in the same
with this
commit.
One?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and I'm just going to put it on your branch that you created. Is that okay? So we're just working in the same branch. So we're working together. There's no reason to do separate branches.
Yep.
So this is improve help message, and this is add extra content to explain that if the field is unchecked, you're open to security dash 2788. Is that close enough?
Yes. Now, notice the warning from Visual Studio there. It's alerting you that your line is too long. Give me a new line in there, because
there is one right here. There's one right
here. Give me another new line. Your second line is outside of convention. After the comma,
you're talking about right there.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
What the Git maintainers push strongly for: first line should not exceed 50 characters. Yep. Subsequent line should not exceed 72 for those of us who are not using reflowing viewers.
Right. Okay. So we're basically fixed with less than 80 is what we're trying to say.
Exactly. Fixed with less than 80 is the preference.
Got it. All right. So now you're good with this.
Yes.
All right. So let's do that. So I'm going to push that up. So that covers our help that we wanted to do. So if we go back over to the...
One more. Sorry, we need one more that's in there. We need to fix the README and take that out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I'll just do that. We'll catch on the next one. Okay. So, actually, do you want me to commit that too?
Sure. Commit it, because
that way it's just done.
Right. Okay. In a perfect world, you do an amend of the previous commit, but it's okay. No need. This thing has been exploratory, and therefore we'll probably squash the whole thing into a single commit anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so that gets rid of that. Squash is your friend, by the way.
It is. Yep.
It's amazing. It's horrible at the same time, though. But it's amazing. Okay, so we want to log a warning to the system log at startup at plugin startup. Let's be specific. When the property is set to allow, basically when the property is set to true. When the escape hatch is true, we want to log that as a warning.
Right.
Okay. So we need to do that in Publisher. But because we did a little pre-work here, I'm going to copy this logger to be lazy because I can. Because Publisher, surprisingly, does not have a logger in it. Here, let me make triply sure.
It does not. So that's a listener. That's a logger on a listener. So task listeners are typically a way to inform something that is happening and could fail.
Yeah. Okay.
A task logger is like a build log.
Okay.
Or
So we don't care about that.
Listener is like a build log. So this really doesn't have a logger.
All right. And then let me grab that to do that.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. That's close enough. So now the question is, let me double check and see how this was being referenced over here, because just typical here. Let me just do this, because that's got all the stuff that we want anyway.
Exactly.
All right, let's go back over to Publisher. So now, I got to do a import here. Let's see. Quick fix. Which one of the 17 different loggers do I want to use?
Java.util.logging.
Okay. Makes that simple.
I think so anyway. You could actually, hey, for a conclusive answer, right, go back there and there you see it. Perfect.
Do you see it? Because I don't see it.
I do. Line 11. Import Java util logging logger.
Right there. And you know what? I'll go ahead and grab that because I know we're going to need that too.
Yeah, but I love that you use the help from the IDE to do it. It's a lot easier to let the IDE give you help.
Okay.
Well done.
Okay, so we're getting ready to go there. Okay, so now we were thinking about dropping it here, right?
Right, but the problem with putting it into the constructor is that means we would log every time the constructor was called.
Okay.
And so putting it in the constructor means when the object is built, and there's one built at least for every test, every job that includes tests. So that's too frequent. So I think what we want a separate static block that's only initialized once. So the way you do a static block is you call out static, open curly brace.
Oh, hang on a second. I'm getting some help here. I'm going to turn off some help. Well, okay. So we're doing this at the time where right after GitHub Copilot was turned on.
So Copilot is helping you. Oh, that's cool. I
Yes.
have not signed up for Copilot yet. What a cool thing.
Let's not do that right now. Let's keep it clean. All right. So what we have here is just a static. Now, do you want it positionally? Is this where you want the static block?
This is
Don't
as
care?
reasonable place as any, right? We may fix it later, but this is as good as any because it's right next to the thing that we're describing.
Right. It's because everything that's happened is right here anyway.
Exactly. So proximity is a good thing. So, and I think in the static block, we want to do that call to the logger that you were, that one.
Okay.
And we don't need the X because that was the exception in the previous context.
Right.
There's no exception here, and we don't need owner. We're just going to do a static string that says, now, what do we say, right? We say, you are
Well, we have to put an if
vulnerable
around this, right?
Oh, no. Well, yes. So yes, we do. Good point. So let's put the if around it.
So we'll say if this.
Yeah, and I'd go even one further.
Okay.
I would rather than using the variable that we did for test purposes, use the one above it that's the Boolean.
Oh, my bad.
Nothing bad about it. It's just that one's declaring that one's the exact system property, not the cheat we used for testability.
Right. So now what do we say?
Yeah, we say something like, you are vulnerable to security-2788. Or maybe the better way, the security-2788 escape hatch is enabled on this instance. Is that too obscure? Really?
Yep, it is.
That is too obscure. It's really...
So what were we trying to say? We were trying to say you are vulnerable to security 2788.
Or is it that you are vulnerable to a cross-site scripting attack through testng?
Vulnerable to a cross-site, too many, scripting attack
through the testng plugin, because they won't necessarily know that it's the plugin that's giving this message.
Yeah, so we need to tell who it is. Yeah, you're right.
And I think we would want to tell them how to disable it, so that when they see it, they say, "Hey, I didn't want this. Okay, you need to go remove this property." And maybe what we would say is the system property. Remove the system property. And then get a copy of that thing that's up at the first line of your screen. Yeah.
Oops. Erg. Okay. From your Jenkins controller startup. From Jenkins. Whoops.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yes. And I'll be interested to see if it compiles. I think that's the syntax.
Okay. So, all right, let's just try that. So first off, let's just do HPI run.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go backwards this time.
Well, and in this case, then, we should not see that message written, right? We're expecting we won't see it, and there will be no checkboxes enabled.
Right. Almost there. There should be a reference to ctestng, but it may get truncated. And it would just say publisher anyway. So because of how this is getting, well, these aren't being shortened.
Right. Well, but yeah, the logger may already tell them, and great if it does, but I think for the benefit of the administrator, let's not make them decode the Java package path name.
Just make it plain.
Identify the plugin, right?
Just make it plain. Okay, so we see here that it appears to have started up cleanly. Let's just do this. Leave the page. Go to configure. So at this point, we don't expect to see the boxes because we haven't thrown the escape hatch. So we look here and there's nothing there. Right, that's good.
Good, okay.
So now let's do this one more time. And let's run it this time with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then this, we expect to see the warning if everything works as expected.
Right.
So let's see. There it is.
Oh, good. We already have seen the warning, and it's nice and early in startup phase, but obviously after prepared all plugins, started all plugins. Good.
Yep. Which is where it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If it happened before then that would be bad.
Right.
That means we would have not necessarily a race condition, but things were out of order type deal. Because we don't want, until started all plugins has happened, we don't want to get anything from plugins.
Right.
So in this case, it ends up being that this is actually pretty reasonable, right? So you probably could have figured it out, but this is much more clear, I think.
Well, and I don't think there's any harm in this. The likelihood of an administrator detecting that is probably quite low because most administrators don't read the log files of their startup. But hey, let's put it in there as one more indicator. you've chosen to enable a switch that we think is dangerous.
Yep. Because the only way you're going to get this is if you have done this work.
Exactly. And that's a rather special case, right? An administrator does that. That's not something someone who can configure jobs can do.
Right. Okay. So I'm happy with this. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's commit this, I guess. So actually here, let's clean the README up. Is that really it for the to-do?
Yeah, that covers all the to-dos, so you can delete the to-do block.
Okay. Because you've already done this, except we haven't done all that. So we've done as much as we can do.
Right. Until the advisory is published, we can't put in the advisory hyperlink.
Right. And I guess I didn't save this again. So now we should get that. Okay, so now this is add logging, add warning if the escape hatch is true.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. And that looks okay. So we'll do that and push that up. So in theory, that's it.
That's right. It as far as I know. I think, well, and now we're ready to ask the security team to review the proposed fix. They'll review it and give us their insights. Usually they're kind enough to do a code review of the proposed change. They'll look at the documentation. They may even run it and say, oh yeah, this has the behavior. And we get yet another verification before they publish the advisory. And that's, yeah, all good and fine. That's good.
Okay. And there's some other things that we're considering doing to this plugin other than some fixes that need to be made anyway. But some extra enhancements that aren't necessary for this security fix.
Right. Yeah,
but would be better. How do we say this?
We give a better user experience. And we think we can improve the user experience, but it's unhealthy to improve user experience in a security fix.
Correct.
The security team has regularly reminded me on other things that it's much better to make the security fix exactly as small as you possibly can.
Right. And we probably made this one a little bit bigger than we should have.
Sure.
But it covers, I believe, all the edges.
Well, and we were learning, like many maintainers will be learning. While they're fixing the problem, they're discovering, oh, this is better, this is worse, and we may end up needing to squash the commits and rebase them to be a nice single thing. But ultimately, we learned what we needed, and the problem is resolved by the changes we made with a safety measure for those who must have the feature can open the escape hatch. Okay.
So at this point, if you've watched these videos, this one and the one before it, you saw the process we went through to do a security fix for a plugin for Jenkins. Mark, how do you rate this? Thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways? I think pairing is a big deal for this, right? I think the pairing helped a lot.
Well, I admit there were things that benefited me by pairing with you. And I think the same holds for you, that there were things that you gained by pairing with me. The two of us together each had different insights on different parts of the problem that we could solve effectively. So I love this. I know that the Jenkins infrastructure team does pairing all the time, specifically for that benefit.
Yep. So if you are a lone Jenkins plugin maintainer, try to find a buddy.
Right.
And how could they do that? Could they just reach out to maybe the security team, ask the community?
On the Jenkins developers list saying, hey, I'd like to enlist another maintainer and see if you can find someone who is interested in adding themselves as a maintainer. Right now, we've got 3 or 4 maintainers on the Git plugin. It's a good thing to have multiple maintainers. It just helps us be careful.
Yeah, but when you post on the list, don't say, hey, I got this email from security saying there's a... Don't say that. Right, but just say, reach out. Or that's the reason why I was saying maybe you reach out to somebody on the security team is like, hey, I really need somebody to pair with.
Right.
And then they could handle the back channels of finding potentially somebody that might be willing to at least give you a second set of eyeballs.
Right. Please do not prematurely announce a security vulnerability in something you maintain. That's bad. bad for all sorts of people. The security team will then feel obligated that they must right now issue an advisory, and they'll issue the advisory and say it's not fixed, which makes it look really bad for you. No, don't do that. Just fix the problem, tell the security team, let them publish the advisory, and then you're set.
Yeah, the key part here is if you get an email from the security team, work with the security team.
That's right.
And if you choose not to work with the security team, I'm going to say that's okay, but at least let them know that you're not going to be working with them.
Well,
just to close the loop, right? At least they know. And
right.
then, because if they're waiting for you, it's like, okay, we haven't heard from this person in 6 weeks. It's going to be on them probably to go ahead and just issue the advisory.
Correct.
Whatever amount of time it is, I'm making up a number of 6 weeks.
Right. They have periods by which they're willing to, if there are conditions which may argue for them to say we have to disclose this vulnerability so that users know that such a vulnerability exists. Yeah. And that's part of their processes, and they're comfortable with the reasons why they would do it and the reasons why they would not do it.
And if you are seeing this one and you saw the other video, that's because security watched both of these videos.
Right.
And they're okay with everything that we said.
And the advisory has been published already. So thanks for watching us go through the process, and enjoy the plugin now that it's got the fix.
Okay. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to this channel because this type of content shows up all the time. Thanks for watching.